Oh, hi folks, hope you're well. Bit of a bonus video really while I think about it. You know how it is at my age. You tend to forget what you're going to talk about, and by tonight comes around, I'll have forgot what I want to say, but I thought it was an important point, sufficiently enough to bring it to your attention now, maybe. I'm often accused, quite frankly, of being not selfish. That's the wrong word to use, but what I do find is the word self-preserving. I think many of us have gone into our lives and got involved in things or taken a job that you simply don't want to do. You've made a mistake, you got married, you got into a relationship, maybe, I don't know. And you think, oh crap, you know, it turns your world upside down, doesn't it? It's a bit like buyer's remorse. But sometimes with jobs, it's the same. You're buying into the idea that you could work with this group of people or this company, and then you discover, well, it's okay. It's more money, yada yada yada. But certain things happen, and you realise that you just ain't getting on with your colleagues, or there's a particular person at work that's pissing you off big time, and you think, well, but then you have a boss who's going to make your life an absolute bloody misery. And you would just think, oh, you go home and you kick the dog and throw water on the cat. And you become, well, it's on your mind all the time. I know this because I've been there. And particularly when you've, taken a job because it's simply more money. The question on your mind has to be, is the pain worth the gain? And many times, we have bills to pay. But what you do find is, in my experience, is that you have to make a decision, shut up or put up. The problem with shutting up and putting up is that it will eat you alive. Internally, it'll destroy your soul, having to shut up, and you take it all in. This frustration, you're deeply unhappy, you're preoccupied thinking about it morning, noon and night, every time you have a shower or a bath, and you, oh God, I've got this to do, I've got to face them again tomorrow, I've got to deal with the same morons every day, you real dickhead, and you just think, and you feel, and maybe you feel right, that you are being victimized. It's a personality clash, and we get these at work with our colleagues, I'm sure, but sometimes the personality clash occurs between you and your boss, or those who are superior to you at work, a status thing, isn't it? And you feel absolutely impotent in being able to deal with it because you need your job, and you'll do anything for your job because you talk to your friends about it, you talk to your family about it, your husband says stop moaning and man up or girl up, and they don't understand, do they? They don't understand that from the moment you look forward to Friday and you dread opening your eyes on Monday, and you don't want to go to bed on Sunday because it's another day of having to deal with them lot tomorrow, and particularly him or her. So this is what I found. I think I laid enough groundwork there to know that, I think there's not many people around in a job, J-O-B, just over broke, have not found themselves in a position where they either don't like all their work colleagues, they don't like the environment they work. Most people, quite frankly, don't like their jobs anyway. But then the problems are compounded, aren't they, by having to deal with people that you just simply don't like, for whatever reason, justifiable or not. They are either making your life a misery or make it clear that they don't like you, but seems, I'm your boss, you'll do as you're told. And there's something niggling, a worm inside you is wiggling around and thinking, short of smacking them in the mouth or taking them to one side in private and putting the fear of God into them and saying, back off. Most people won't do that. Most people won't square their boss up. They will be intimidated because they think the boss will have the power to fire them. And in some cases that may be true. But you reach a point, a tipping point in such positions where the pain ain't worth the gain. The ability to tell them to shove it is far more valuable and appealing to you in those circumstances. And I've done that twice in my life, much to the irritation of my wife. Like, you're crazy, you flipped, what's the matter with you? We've got 2 young children, yada yada yada. You're taking this risk and you just unanimously decide to quit your job. Yeah. There you go. You're insane. How irresponsible are you? Yeah. Because what we have to realize as slaves is that we are exactly that. Now, folks, you can fall for anything. Stand for something or fall for anything, and I won't fall for anything. I've fallen for anything before and got shafted. And I won't ever, ever do that again. That's by being nice and accommodating and being in a situation. I'm sorry, I'm with my dogs today and they're making a noise. I think at some stage, if you're in this situation where you have to dread going to work, it's affecting you, it's making you ill, well, your health has to be your number one primary concern, because without your health you're not going to be anything. It's pointless. You're going to be taking days off sick and you'll be losing money and you'll be stressed out and your reputation will suffer. Excuse me, I just battered this dog. Pack it in. So you find yourself, well, I found myself in a situation where I was going through the sulks. Yes, how irresponsible was I? You know, we're going to lose everything again because you've done this and yada, yada, yada. But if you have absolute belief in your abilities and yourself, there's nothing that can stop you. Nothing. Be true, as Shakespeare said, be true to yourself. If you are unhappy, whether it be in a marriage or work environment or relationships, get out and publish and be damned. Do it and face the consequences, because the consequences are never as bad as you think they're going to be. They've got to be a whole lot better than having to deal with a dick who's making your life a misery or a bitch from hell that you might be having to contend with. And yet so many people out there live lives of quiet desperation. You just have to look down the train stations at any given platform and realise that people are fundamentally bloody miserable. For whatever reason, but a majority of the reasons is that they're in a job they didn't plan to do when they were children. They had no ever. You can ask 9 out of 10 people what job to do. Oh, I'm a this and I'm a that. And did you, when you were young, playing with your little cars on the dinky track or your dollies when you were a child, what did you want to do? Oh, me. I wanted to be a nurse. And are you a nurse? No. What about you? Oh, I wanted to have an animal rescue centre because I love animals. And what do you do at the moment? I work in an office, typing, word processing, God knows what. Or I'm a solicitor. Oh, you're a solicitor, how nice. When you were a child, did you want to be a solicitor? Not really. No. I wanted to go travel the world and maybe do something quite exciting and volunteer my services for the Red Cross or whatever. But most people don't do what they used to dream of doing as a child. What happened? Reality. That's what happened. But why should our life not be a fantasy? Why can we not live our dreams? Because we have the ideas knocked out of us. When we end up in a job we don't want to do, in a place we don't want to live, with having to work with people we cannot abide, with a boss who's giving us such a hard time, workmates and colleagues you really don't want to be with because you have nothing in common. But the money's good. If you take the money away, what have you got? It's like saying to a fat person, hey Carol, want to go on a diet? Yeah, she's desperate to lose weight. You say, take the C off chips, what have you got? Hips. Yeah, you used to have some. Get rid of the chips. But they won't. They'll continue stuffing their face and wondering why they're fat. People stay in jobs they can't stand and wonder why they get ulcers and high blood pressure and ill health, and they're deeply unhappy. And they'll do this for the most productive times in their life. And this is what I rapidly realized a few years back, quite a few years back, that I will make a selfish decision because it is me. I am not going to sit and take advice of anyone. I have to take advice of me. My wife might have a dicky fit about me coming home saying I've told him to sod off. She can have her dicky fits. She's entitled to have an opinion and her dicky fits. That is it. Because I am not her keeper. And nor is she mine. But I do admit to having to take responsibility of my actions. And I'm prepared to. And I can tell you, I've never, ever let her down. I've always come up smelling of roses, more by luck than judgment, sometimes I'll grant you, but I've made it, I've had the balls. And that's what it takes. Metaphorically, girls, to make a decision for me. Because I knew that if I stayed in that job where the unreasonable demands are made on my time and my health by a dick with an attitude who just seemed to get up in the morning to realise his ambition to drive me up the wall, that I was his plaything. And I wasn't going to take it. I was not going to be anyone's whipping boy. And that's why I decided to work for myself. I will no longer take shit out of anybody. And I'm telling you now, if you're in a position where you're deeply unhappy in your job, go home and do some soul searching. And then accept the worst thing that could possibly happen as a consequence for you to telling your employer or your boss to shove it. Write down on a bit of paper in private, what's the worst case scenario? And then learn to accept that scenario. Because the amazing thing is, you can sit there staring at a bit of paper with all these problems on it. Do you know, there's never... I used to joke about this, but it's very true. There's never a problem so big that it cannot be walked away from. Very rare. There's not many problems out there that cannot simply be walked away from. And if your problems are work or your job and 98% of your problems, you're on a winner. You just turn it around and say, shove it. It's not for me. And you must have this volition in life, because you must learn to become zero tolerance zone Otherwise, people will mess with you. They think they own you, and they don't. But because they have the arrogance to think if they pay your wages, they will own you. No, you don't. You can take your wages and shove them where the sun don't shine. Sunshine. See ya. But I'm telling you, you be true to yourself. You'll get your self-respect back. Self-respect. Learn to respect yourself. Nobody has a God-given right to destroy you and dominate you throughout your life simply because they pay you a wage. Whoops. Nobody. And if I'd known this when I was 19, it would have been a different world for me. But I did learn it reasonably quickly. Probably around 27. That, hang on a minute, I don't need to take this crap. 28, I think. Enough is enough. I ain't doing it. I'm telling you to do it. I'm not doing it. It's unreasonable. You're trying to make my life and position untenable. I'm not doing it. Now what? You see, you create a problem for them at that point, because they now have to find a justifiable reason to dismiss you. A legal way. Certainly if they're making unreasonable demands, and you can prove it in court if necessary. Or they're victimizing you again. That is a terrible offence at work, victimization of employees, and if you can prove it, you're going to be wealthy. Everyone's a winner. But be prepared to change jobs if you plan to take your employer to court. So, all I'm trying to get across, in essence, in this brief video, is if you're unhappy, stop whinging. Excuse me. Stop whinging about your circumstances. And if you want to change something about your life, change something. If something's making you unhappy, whether you're in a relationship you're unhappy with, your kids are giving you a hard time and you don't want to upset them. Upset them. Trust me, upset them. You've got to let them know that you ain't going to take this anymore. You're sick of it. And you're not going to tolerate it anymore. Grow a pair or grow a backbone. And be hung by your tongue. And have the volition to back yourself up. Never mind anyone else. You've got to do what's true for you. And you might have to suffer the slings and arrows of others as they condemn and criticize and complain about you being so irresponsible. Water off a duck's back, because they ain't you. They don't have to live in your skin. They don't have to tolerate your bosses and your colleagues that are driving up the wall. They don't have to suffer getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning to de-ice the bloody car every day of the week. Come hell and high water, you've got to be in that office. You've got to get every day a grind. You're worth more than that. Especially when it was never a job you dreamed of doing as a child. Everybody should have a choice of being able to do their dream jobs. And if you're not doing your dream job, get doing it. Or start to learn what you need to learn in order to be able to do it. Because you only have one life. Yes, you do reincarnate, I suppose. That's my belief. But it's not promised, and there's no guarantee when, where, what country you're going to end up in when you do come back. This is your life. You have a certain amount of time. You've got to play the song that you like. And if your needle is stuck in a repetitive drone click on a record. Jog it and move along. But don't be a moaning ninny about your circumstances, continuously moaning, oh, woe is me, and I hate this job, and I wish I could. We're full of wishes. Well, stop being a wisher. Wishes never did nobody no good no how. Make a decision, for Christ's sake, once in your life. Get a bit of paper, on the left-hand side, draw reasons to stay, on the right, reasons to go. Whether it's in a marriage or a job. And work out if there's more pluses than minuses on either side. And then you'll have your answer. But once you've made your decision, be committed, be hung by your tongue. And then there's no going back. So many people quit their jobs and regret it. And the honeymoon period's over. Now they have to face the reality that tomorrow nobody's paying them. Or they get a month's wages and that's that, they're gone. They've got a month to get their act together. Well, most people can get their act together within a month. Certainly somebody with the tenacity that you have and the determination, because I tell you, I would rather do any work than work with somebody in a cushy number that is making my life a bloody misery, even though the job's great. You have a choice, get rid of the job or get rid of the boss. Well, you can't go killing him off or her off, and the company's going to be there, and you don't own it. So it's going to have to be you that moves. But stop being frightened of consequences. Because do you know what? When you look back in history, think about all the historical people. Wellington, Napoleon, Winston Churchill, all amazing politicians, Enoch Powell. Do you think he fretted about giving his speech, the Rivers of Blood speech, about the immigration problem that will hit us in Britain? Don't you think for a moment that he knew or didn't appreciate that speech would destroy his career and chances of becoming a leader of a party? Of course, but he had the overwhelming desire and the burn to speak and say that speech and sod the consequences. But he's still a great man. And you're still a great person. You deserve better. There's no second chances, folks, that come along. Not really. You've got to seize the day. Carpe diem. And if you ain't happy, you ain't happy. Tell them to shove it, or tell him or her to shove it, whether it be a job or a marriage, and be prepared to walk. Because I'll tell you, I'd rather, if it meant losing everything, been there, I would rather live in a caravan with someone I adore and be happy than live in a palace where I cannot bear the sight of anyone around me. And it's the same at work. I'd rather work in a flower shop on £6,000 a year and be very happy than work in a job where I'm getting 40 grand a year, but I'm suicidal most days. Remember, you got one life. Everybody's got the same, generally. 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours a day. For average, 75 years. How long can you take this crap? Make a decision. If you're happy, I'm pleased for you. If you're unhappy, stop moaning and do something about it. And stop asking people for their approbation and praise and support. You don't need it. At least they'll respect you. And you'll get respect in it. of me. You've got to be respected, because what else can they do? You'll be a legend.